Welcome back to Soflex Math. Great job making it to Unit 4. So if you've been following along with our course the whole time, we're now in Unit 4, which is dealing with multiplying decimals. And each of our lessons, we're going to kind of tackle a different type of decimal. So for this one, we're going to see what it looks like when we multiply a whole number times a decimal. So let's dive right in here and take a look. And we want to be doing a little bit of thinking too. So what I want you to think about is the answers. Okay, the answer to a multiplication problem is called the product. But if I had 7 and I'm multiplying by something we know as a decimal is less than 1, you have to think, is our number going to be greater or less than 7? So this is kind of a weird thing to think about because our answers are actually going to get smaller or less than what we start with. So our answer is going to be less than 7. And that's kind of tricky. So if you think about this number, remember how we read it 0 and 6/10? So we're going to have 7 piles of 6/10. So let's take a look at how we'd solve it. So we're going to do all the multiplying. We're not even going to worry about the decimal for a minute. We're just going to multiply the normal way. So 7 times 6 we know is 42. Okay, and now all we have to do is see how many spots to the right of the decimal. So if we have one spot to the right, so notice how our decimal's here, and there's one number to the right, that has to match up with our answer. So our answer has to have one number to the right of the decimal. That's how we know where our decimal goes. So this time it had one number to the right, so I'm going to have one number to the right in the answer. So in this case, our answer is 4 2/10. So like I said, kind of look at this. We started with 7, and our answer is actually less. So see how if that makes sense to you. All right, and now let's look at our second example, kind of following the same idea here. So this time we have 0 and 3/100. Once again, a very small amount. So think of this one as money. So if you had 3 cents, and I gave you 3 cents 8 times, once again, you're going to have way less than $8, for example. So we're going to do the same way. 8 times 3 is 24. So we're just really doing our multiplication facts. All right, so we have 24, and now we have 2 spots to the right of the decimal. So we're going to have 2 spots to the right of the decimal here. So see how it matches up. 1 and 1, 2 spots to the right, 2 spots to the right in the answer. So the multiplication part is pretty easy. It's just about where to put the decimal. So if I gave you 3 cents 8 times, you'd have 24 cents. So maybe thinking about money will kind of help you when we talk about multiplying whole numbers times decimals. All right, let's take a look at a couple more examples. All right, with this next example, I notice now we have a whole number, 6, and then a whole number in a decimal. So 6 times 5.9, or 5 9/10. All right, a good way to solve this one, once we get to whole numbers like this, is to round. So 5 9/10 is close to 6. Okay, and then 6 times 6 is about, we're going to be thinking about 36 as our answer. So if you want to solve it the lattice way, you can write it just like we do, one place value per box. So 5 9/10 times 6. So if we go ahead and multiply that all out, so 54, 6 times 5 is 30. All right, and then we can work through this. So bring down the 4, 5, and 3. So our numerical answer is a 3, a 5, and a 4. Now, if we did a good job with our estimate of 36, there's only one place we can put the decimal that makes sense, because 35 4/10 is really close to 36. If I put the decimal here, 3 54/100, that's not close to 36. If I put the decimal here, 354, that is not close to 36. So doing estimating is a good way to figure out where to put the decimal. Or, once again, we can just go counting to the right of the decimal. So one spot to the right here, there'll be one spot in our decimal. So you can multiply these the regular way, or you can use our lattice method from our multiplication unit. Either way, we can get to the same answer. The real problem with decimals, or the real thing you have to pay attention to, is where does the decimal go? All right, so let's take a look at this one. So 3 23/100, that's about 3. 4 is obviously 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. So our answer hopefully is going to look about 12. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but somewhere around 12. So when we're going to put our decimal down, we want to make sure that that is the same. So 4 times 3 is 12. Carry the 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. And then 4 times 3 is 12. So right now our answer looks like 1,292 because we can't forget our decimal. So once again, how do I make 1292 look like 12? Well, I think right here would be a good spot for the decimal. 12 and 92 hundredths. Okay, because 12 and 12 decimal. Otherwise, if you don't like the estimating, just count 2 spots, count 2 spots. So remember, there's 2 spots, we're counting to the right. So I'm starting here and counting to the right. So 2 spots to the right of the decimal. All right, let's try one more before we move on to our next lesson. All right, with our final example here, we have 12 and 3/10 times 5. So 12 and 3/10, that's going to be about 12. 5 is a 5. 12 times 5 is about 60. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and solve it with the lattice way again. So 5 times 3, just as a good review for lattice anyway. 5 times 2, and 5 times 1, remember, is 0, 5. Okay, and then we add diagonally 5, 1, 6. Okay, so let's write those numbers out, 6, 1, and 5. My estimate was 60, so I think 61 would be close to 60. So 61 and 5/10 would be our answer here. Checking again, 1 spot to the right, 1 spot to the right. So as you can see here, you can use the lattice method, and you can just write out the numbers, 1 per place value, so we don't even really worry about the decimal in the lattice part. We just want to get the number answer. Then we can go back and count or use our estimate to figure out what the actual value is. So once again, go ahead and practice the homework assignment there. Check your answers, ask any questions, and we'll see you in the next lesson where we're going to multiply in a decimal times a decimal. So we'll have a decimal on the top and a decimal on the bottom and see what that looks like for our answers. Thanks for watching Soflex Math.